Selling on Amazon is completely dead. No one can make money doing it anymore. That's what everyone was saying when I started my Amazon business over 6 years ago, and I'm extremely glad I ignored them and continued to go on to sell over $5 million on Amazon. But with the way Amazon has changed over the years, now are they right? To figure out if that's true now, in today's video, we're going to investigate the 5 biggest claims that I hear from Amazon sellers who have quit the platform or people who try it and just never get anywhere. To investigate those claims, we're going to look at some real hard data on each one of them, and I'm going to give you my personal opinion as a 6-year Amazon veteran on which Amazon changes actually are horrible and which Amazon changes get blown out of proportion a little bit. Because before you start putting your time and money into something, you need to know the honest reality of what selling on Amazon is actually like, and not just the fairy tale version you see all over Instagram. With that in mind, let's jump into the first claim. The biggest complaint I've been hearing about Amazon a lot recently is that Amazon fees have gone way too high in recent years and that no one can make any money after all these recent fee changes. And to be honest, a lot of these fee changes have definitely felt very unfair as a recent Amazon seller, but I wanted to look into the hard data of my own personal Amazon account and see how much validity that has. To figure that out, I pulled sales and fees reports from my Amazon store from 22, 23, and 24, and then I took the top line revenue and compared that to the total dollar amount that Amazon actually paid out to my bank account. And that's after all Amazon fees, all changes, all increases in shipping costs, all new fees, all refunds, all of that. I wanted to see how that percentage changed over the last couple of years. And this is actually really interesting because I definitely track month to month and year to year how much overall profit is changing. But this was a cool experiment to see how much overall from the business Amazon started taking versus me and my team just getting better at sourcing products. And like I said, I want to be super transparent with all this so you know what you're actually getting into. From 2022 to 2023, overall, my revenue compared to how much I actually got paid by Amazon, that number decreased by 0.8%. What that means is I needed to win back that 0.8% by buying smarter inventory, buying higher ROI products, or leveraging extra ways to create discounts like using catch-all email coupons, discounted gift cards, padding my margins with a little bit of extra cash back, anything I could do to fight for that 0.8% back. And then comparing the total sales from 2023 to the total sales from 2024, which is definitely where it felt like Amazon was making a lot of very negative changes for Amazon sellers, I ended up paying about 1.2% more to Amazon instead of putting that back into my pocket or investing that in more products. So you can decide for yourself if those percent changes are significant enough that you want to not make money on Amazon, figure out something else to do. And there's also a lot of other circumstances that go into that. For example, in recent years, I've started to spend less and less of my personal time so that I can increase the value of the time that I actually put into the business. So I'm sure that if I was spending a ton of time doing my own product research and actually buying products, margins could have been a little bit higher, but I was pretty fine with that, especially given recent Amazon changes. And after digging through those numbers, honestly, it just inspired me to start figuring out some new creative ways to help my product research team and to spend a little bit more of my own time dedicated towards increasing the profit margin of my Amazon business. And that's the big thing with this point and the 4 other major points we're going to talk about today. Don't start a business at all if you're not willing to problem solve and adapt to changes as they come. And there are some things like just completely raising the fees on certain types of products, certain categories of products that are just directly detrimental to Amazon sellers. A lot of times the market will react to that by raising prices. And there's also been other Amazon fees, like the low inventory fee was one that Amazon was going to start charging sellers if they had less than a certain amount of days in stock on their items. And then they started rolling out a bunch of changes to it. I thought it was honestly going to be a really big deal for someone who sells not a super high quantity of a lot of different items, but I just reran the numbers and I ended up paying $76 on $2.6 million in sales in 2024. So I'm glad that a lot of these fees don't end up being nearly as bad as they seem to be at first glance. So addressing claim number 1, that Amazon fees are too high, while they are definitely increasing as a percentage of sales over time, in my mind, it's not yet a significant enough percentage for me to completely want to stop selling on Amazon. But what I will say is you guys let me know if you ever launch a website where I can pay you less money to do all the marketing, shipping to customers, customer service, all that kind of stuff. Right now, it's still worth it, in my opinion, to deal with a lot of Amazon's bullcrap, frankly, in order for us to have access to the marketplace. But after we investigate claim number 2, maybe you'll disagree with me. And that claim is that everything is gated for new Amazon sellers. I hear this especially from people who are wanting to start selling on Amazon. They start punching in some products into Amazon. They punch in Nike shoes and the stuff that worked for Amazon sellers 5 years ago. And then they see that they can't sell these big name brands and they quit immediately. Now, while Amazon has locked off some big brands, especially for new Amazon sellers to come into the platform and start selling, I've still seen tons of new Amazon sellers start over the last year or two where Amazon started to lock off brands like Adidas and Nike. And I still see lots of new Amazon sellers finding success. And that's because there's thousands of other good brands to sell. And just to make that process simpler for you, if you're in that boat and you're feeling like you can't sell anything on Amazon, let's jump in and I'll show you some of those simpler products that you can actually start out by selling. In order for you to figure out if you can sell a certain brand at this point in time, all you need to do is go into Amazon Seller Central, go to catalog, and then add products. And then I'm going to show you a brand that, or at least a specific ASIN that I'm not allowed to sell right now. So if I try to go this super high sales rank Olay listing and I click right here, it's saying there's listing limitations and the only option is to copy the listing. On the flip side, if I go to a listing like a DeWalt Tools or something like that, something I've never personally sold, but the difference here is it's letting me apply to sell this listing. In order for me to get ungated to sell these products, as long as it says apply to sell, you're gonna be able to submit an invoice from any legit retailer, any legit distributor, and as long as all the information on the invoice matches what's on your Amazon seller account, you just submit it as a PDF to Amazon and you'll get approved after you buy at least 10 units. So for example, if you wanted to get ungated in DeWalt Tools, you could buy 10 of the cheapest DeWalt product at Lowe's.com, make sure it matches your seller account, submit that to Amazon, and you will get approved. Now, unfortunately, what is also very true is that sometimes selling on Amazon, the most frustrating parts are actually dealing with Amazon themselves. It's not any of the logistical challenges of finding products, shipping it in, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes when it comes to ungating, you are going to have to submit multiple times. If that happens, attach the tracking information, order confirmation, add a picture of the item. A lot of these Amazon reps are penalized if they approve something they're not supposed to, but they're not penalized if they deny something they were supposed to approve. So sometimes it's just about getting that rep that's actually willing to do their job, unfortunately. And that's why in the meantime, while you're getting some of those products approved with legit invoices, you can start selling products that are auto-ungated. There's some brands on Amazon that don't really require any invoicing. You can immediately go into Amazon, and when you press the apply to sell button, it'll automatically approve you. One of those brands is something like Athletic Works. Honestly, a lot of retail store brands. So Athletic Works is a Walmart brand. Stuff like Up and Up, Great Value, some of those brands can also be auto-ungated for new sellers. And if you want to find some more of these brands that are pretty easy for new Amazon sellers to hop in to ungate or even just be able to automatically sell right away, you can do that by looking at the SellerAmp offers tab on the listing. And then I like to pull up for auto-ungate sellers specifically, anyone with less than 20 feedback, usually a couple. Here's a seller with 1 feedback. The chances that this storefront is selling other brands that were also auto-ungated is going to be pretty high. So you can just start plugging in some of these brands on your seller account, and you can see this seller with 1 feedback, probably opened their store recently, is still able to sell lots of big brands on Amazon. Think Gap, Columbia, Cricket, Wilson. A lot of those might require invoices. Some of them might not require invoices for your account. Auto-ungates are going to depend on your account, and as you sell more and more products on Amazon, you're going to get auto-approved to sell more and more brands. So just start plugging some things in, see what opportunities are already available to you as a new Amazon seller, and just remember that ungating isn't impossible, and there's been tons of recent Amazon sellers, even people I've interviewed here on the channel, that have not been able to sell some of the big brands that Amazon sellers had a lot of success with for years, and they're still crushing it and finding early success. And that brings me to the third claim I want to investigate, and that's that Amazon is just randomly banning people. I hear this all over social media, and I honestly have a personal story with this that I also want to share and talk a little bit about. Where a lot of this originates is, as an Amazon seller a few years ago, I started noticing on some really popular Amazon listings that there were sellers that were selling things at just impossible prices. Their addresses were overseas. Not that there can't be legit overseas sellers, but they were all overseas addresses, and they had no feedback, a couple feedback, and they were selling some of the most popular products on Amazon at truly impossible prices, which meant that they almost definitely had to be selling counterfeit items. And so after this happened, I'm honestly not sure if this was a thing beforehand, but I very much know they ramped up how often they were using it. Something called a Section 3 Amazon account review, or on a smaller, less serious basis, they did a CSM brand review. So a Section 3 complaint is basically when Amazon reaches out to you, they say, hey, we want to see all your invoices for this ASIN or these ASINs. We want to make sure that you're buying legitimate inventory, and if you can't provide proof, we're going to ban your Amazon account. And then on a less serious level than the Section 3 review, they also started sending out a lot more CSM brand reviews. I personally had one of those that definitely caused some headaches for me, and they basically wanted to see a bunch of invoices in one of my favorite brands, and for a while they just weren't liking the invoices that I was submitting back to Amazon from these big retail stores. A lot of the problems probably related to that gating approval system that I already talked a little bit about. And in order for me to get the ability to sell one of my favorite brands, again, something I was buying some of them directly from the brand's website, definitely buying from legitimate retailers that were also selling that retail brand. In order for me to get that back, I had to submit the exact same information about 25 times over the course of a few weeks, and finally got an Amazon rep that was willing to actually look at their own rules and approve me and bring me back to one of my favorite brands. And I've never personally had a Section 3 account review, but I have seen lots of students and some of my friends have Section 3 account reviews. By the way, if you do end up getting one of those later down the line, I made an awesome interview with one of my friends who was able to beat his Section 3 account review. Hopefully you never have to check that video out, but I know a lot of people have watched that video and been able to beat their Section 3 account reviews with that video. But personally, the biggest things that I took away from getting one of my favorite brands shut down for quite a while while. Seeing other people run into some serious account health headaches is number one, be very careful if you're someone who's over leveraging on credit cards, over leveraging on debt to buy inventory. Amazon is a risky business. Basically, any business is risky, but anything where there's platform risk, if you're reliant on Facebook ads or Amazon not giving you a Section 3 review, something like that, I'm just very cautious about leveraging tons of debt that you can't afford. And personally, when I got one of my favorite brands removed for a few weeks, that encouraged me to start digging into a lot of more brand opportunities. And since then, we've been way more diversified. I don't think it would be nearly as big of an issue if we were to get shut down on a certain brand. We just cast a wider net and sell way more different opportunities. And the last and probably most important thing I learned from a lot of this is that you just have to be extremely persistent with Amazon when it comes to getting any account health issues resolved, any ungating, any Section 3, anything like that. You just have to make sure that Amazon always has something that you're waiting on them to review. Basically, when I was going through the process of getting my Amazon account reviewed, I'd check it like twice a day, sometimes more, make sure that they hadn't sent me a denial, and then I would literally resend the exact same information. I knew what I was sending them was the right information, and eventually it did get approved. But I just see a lot of Amazon sellers, they'll try once, it's, oh, Amazon said they don't want it, I'm done. You just got to be persistent with this kind of thing. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes. A lot of the back end of Amazon is not exactly staffed by the type of people that I personally would want to be in charge of my Amazon account. But again, it's just kind of part of the platform risk and part of why it's important to be diversified, even across multiple marketplaces, and especially not only focused on one particular brand on Amazon. Amazon account reviews are probably the most valid point I hear from a lot of people who are scared to get started on Amazon. So just keep in mind, once again, you do got to be a problem solver. You got to be willing to deal with some headaches if you want the wealth that can be created by starting your own business. It's just part of the territory, unfortunately. And that brings me to the fourth claim that I want to investigate about how selling on Amazon is dead these days. And that's a pretty recent one. A lot of people have been talking about how no one's going to be shopping for products on Amazon that are more expensive than you can get it at retailers or wholesalers. Even buying things like Temu are around now. You can probably buy a cheaper alternative, because as a lot more Americans start feeling pressure on their wallets, it does seem logical that people would stop shopping on Amazon. But I wanted to investigate some real data on Amazon about this, not just talk about it. Let's jump in. And to do that, we can get a really quick snapshot as to how well products on Amazon are performing using a tool called Keep a Product Finder. This is something I use to source a lot of products in my Amazon business. We cover a lot of information about sourcing with this on the free classes that we host every other Wednesday if you're curious about digging in more on this. But I want to use this to investigate the claim that a bunch of products on Amazon are going to start selling slower and the opportunity is going to shrink, or we can prove, hey, the opportunity is actually growing on Amazon, right? So to do that, I want to filter down to just a super simple filter. I want to look at all of the products that would be potentially reseller friendly, potential products that you and I would want to source from big websites, from wholesalers, all that kind of thing. And what we can do is we can filter down, hey, I want all these items on this list to have a 150,000 sales rank or better, right? So those are going to be items that usually sell 30 times a month, probably a lot more, but we can just throw that in there so we know that these items are actually pretty good sellers. I also want to make sure that these items are not private label items or not only sold by Amazon. So I want to filter out items that on a 90-day average have at least 3 sellers and less than 50 sellers. So it's not just flooded with a ton of Amazon sellers. I also want to see listings where Amazon is not selling it all the time. So I filtered out items where Amazon sells it. And then I've also gone ahead and just filtered down to things that have a couple ratings, aren't like a 1-star product. Again, just things that prove that this product has actually sold. And for me personally, I like to filter out super heavy items. We don't even have to do this for this case, but just so we're super fair and figuring out what we'd actually want to sell on Amazon. And that actually leaves us with about 770,000 products that would be pretty reseller friendly. They sell well. We're not competing directly with the brand, all that kind of stuff, right? And so our opportunity between you and I and everybody else watching this video is there's almost 800,000 products where we could source them and sell them on Amazon as long as we can get them cheap enough. But how many of these products are actually selling faster? Not products that used to sell really well and nobody's got money anymore, so they're not shopping on Amazon. To do that, we can very quickly filter out some products here. So if I go to the 90-day drop percentage in terms of sales rank, so the lower a sales rank is, the faster the item's selling. So if it has a positive drop, that means it's coming closer and closer to 1, which means it's coming closer and closer to the fastest selling products, right? And I want to see all the products on Amazon that are actively selling faster and faster over the last 90 days. So I'm going to put in a 1% right there. And you can see of the almost 800,000 products, there are over 400,000 products that are actively selling faster over the last 90 days, right? So that shows me that of the opportunity that we have at hand, which is almost 800,000 products, well over half of them are actively selling faster on Amazon. So that just shows me that there's still plenty of opportunity, still plenty of products that you and I can source. But we don't even need to stop there, right? Let's look at some more hard data just so you can see how real this really is, right? So one thing that's really cool about Amazon and the fact that they're actually going to have to rely on third-party sellers is the revenue on Amazon is actually over 60%. You can see this was 2024 Q4. It was actually at an all-time high, the total percent of Amazon, which was being sold by third-party sellers. So obviously they're reliant on making sure that there's a lot of opportunity for third-party sellers on Amazon. And you can also see, this is a little bit older data, but you can see the third-party seller revenue is massively spiking up as well. So that's not just certain products on Amazon starting to sell faster. That's products on Amazon that we know are selling faster, and they're selling faster in a growing opportunity. Where some people might start panicking is seeing some of the retail store closures. For example, I know a bunch of Joann shopping stores just closed. And to me, that just tells me that a lot of those people are now going to have to start shopping for their favorite craft supplies and all that kind of stuff on Amazon rather than going out to the store. So for better or for worse, Amazon is killing a lot of local retail stores, even retail giants, and sending all of those customers to Amazon, which is something that you and I definitely need to be taking advantage of. So once again, you can let me know down in the comments if you disagree with me on this, but to me, it just seems like Amazon's growth, and especially third-party sellers' growth on Amazon, just a little bit too much to ignore. People are still going to be putting lots of money in the pockets of third-party sellers if you're one of the successful ones. And that brings me to the fifth claim that I want to investigate. Again, I hear this a lot from new Amazon sellers and people that are trying to scale their Amazon business, and that's that they simply think they don't have enough money to start selling on Amazon. And I especially hear this from the private label space, where people are going out and creating their own listings, buying products from Alibaba, branding it, doing the marketing, all that kind of thing. From what I've heard and talking to a lot of my friends who are private label sellers, it definitely seems like the cost of starting one of those businesses is increasing. And that's why I personally just like selling name brand products that already sell on Amazon. If you want to see my exact sourcing methods for how I actually find those products, you can go check out one of the videos on my channel recently. I literally just open up the computer and I find profitable products together with you. And you don't need quite as much money to get started doing that. It's not as risky, that kind of thing. And in fact, let's just quickly investigate the claim of like how much money you actually need to get started on Amazon. And to do that, there's a simple spreadsheet that I've showed before. Let's just quickly walk through the example though. Let's say in order to figure out how much you actually want to sell on Amazon, we obviously need to spend money on products, right? So let's say you have done 20,000 bucks in revenue so far and you've spent $10,000 to make that happen. I'm assuming you probably never sold on Amazon if you're watching this video. Maybe you have, but this is just a pretty typical breakdown of how much of your revenue actually goes to cover cost of goods sold. Anywhere from 48 to 52% is pretty typical. And let's say your goal is to sell 100,000 bucks a month on Amazon. That would mean obviously you need to spend 50,000 bucks a month. It means you're going to spend about 1,700 bucks a day. And you can also reverse engineer your goals from a profit standpoint, right? So using pretty similar numbers, average ROI for an Amazon seller is usually somewhere around 30 to 40%. Let's say you want to make 3,000 bucks a month. That means in order for you to hit that goal, if that's been your historical ROI, you need to spend right around $9,000, right? And that's obviously assuming that every single one of your products sells. So that's probably closer to 10 to 11,000 bucks. And then some of those slower sellers will sell 2 months, 3 months later, that kind of thing. But hopefully that kind of quick numbers example breaks down how much money you actually need to start selling on Amazon. And I know for me personally, my Amazon business started with about 1,500 bucks. It's like the money I made is in a high school job, that kind of thing. And I actually just used that money to start buying used books. So if you don't have a ton of money, sell the used books you got on your store. I went to thrift stores, like literally after class, a couple times a week, I'd be scanning stuff on the shelf and you can buy it for $1, sell it for 30. And that's a really good way, if you're willing to put in a little bit of elbow grease, to build up that capital to spend whatever your goal was, right? So we talked about hitting those crazy goals. If your goal is to make 100,000 bucks a month in profit, you're going to be spending 300 or 400,000 bucks a month on inventory, right? Which probably sounds insane right now if you're a brand new Amazon seller. When I started selling on Amazon, it would have sounded insane to spend 100,000 bucks a month in inventory, but that's about what we do now in order to hit about $2.5 million a year in revenue. So yes, while you do need money to make money in a business that's based on inventory, I would hope that's obvious to a lot of you guys who are smart business owners willing to take a shot on yourselves and make some money on Amazon. So in my opinion, Amazon, yes, has gotten harder over the recent years. We're no longer in the 2020 era of everyone getting stuck at home. You throw something up on Amazon and people will pay whatever price you want to charge on Amazon. I think we all got a little bit spoiled by those couple years on Amazon. But in my opinion, as someone who's been selling on Amazon for over 6 years now, the changes aren't significant enough for me to not want to put a bunch more money into growing my Amazon business. Like I said, I do still spend over 100,000 bucks a month on inventory. And if I did not believe in the future of selling on Amazon, I wouldn't be spending that much money on products of my own money. I'd be putting that into stocks, something smarter. And I do still think that while Amazon has made a lot of changes that are not positive for Amazon sellers and are obviously just trying to increase their own profit, in my mind, it's still one of the best cash flow businesses you can start on the internet. But this is where I'm going to toss the conversation to you. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Let me know if you disagree with me. Let me know where you agree with me. And if you're a new Amazon seller that watched all the way here, now that you know the reality of selling on Amazon and you want a full free guide to getting started, I'll leave a link down below. There's over 3 hours of content. There's several downloadable guides, bunch of stuff I wish I had when I started selling on Amazon. Should fast track you to your first 10,000 bucks in revenue, and it's free. And of course, if you did find this valuable at all, hit the subscribe button down below. That helps me out for helping you guys out for free. Really appreciate you watching this video, and I will see you next time.